This week, David and I are in the Skoda
Kodiaq RS.
Skoda is one of those brands that flies under a lot of radars. Not a lot of people even know about it. So the history is this. It's one of the Volkswagen group of companies, along with Audi, Seat, Lamborghini, Bentley, Audi. What have I forgotten? Ducati.
No. Well, the motorbikes, yes.
Motorbikes, Ducati. And what it means is that the infrastructure, the engines, the platforms and so forth can be shared along all of those brands.
Well, in fact, the quality of their build out of the Czech Republic is often as good as, and in some surveys has been better than, the actual Volkswagen product.
The SUV is in the large category, so it's in the same as Audi Q7, Toyota Prado, Toyota Kluger. And I looked it up last night and they sold about 180 of these last month, which I don't think is too bad for a little known brand.
Yeah, it's an unsung hero in many ways because it's a very good car.
Well, earlier this week, I took this very car out to St Albans, which is up the Wiseman's Ferry Road, along the side of the McDonnell River, and along quite a big stretch of dirt road. Here's a bit of it now. Now you can see on this dirt road, although it's reasonably well kept, it is still, at the end of the day, a dirt road. And the bit of road before that is very winding, badly kept tarmac. And this thing was absolutely beautiful. David, it was très magnifique, or that, what's Czech for magnificent? Magnificentski. It was smooth. We've got drive modes that can change the suspension, steering, transmission and throttle to whatever you want. You might want brisk transmission, you might want nice soft suspension. I like a soft suspension. What about you?
I prefer, certainly for touring, the softer suspension.
Well, say for touring, you can put it in comfort mode. The steering is super light, the suspension is super soft, and to be honest, there's not an appreciable difference in the throttle. There's a sort of a bimodal exhaust, which works even with the sports mode that's in the DSG. 7-speed DSG, by the way, which is a wet clutch one. This car has a bunch, and when I say bunch, I mean there's technology in this that I haven't actually seen in any other car, no matter the price. There's little bits of plastic that pop out of the door when you open it so that your car door doesn't hit another car. The rear door has a kick to open and close function. By and large, it is absolutely brilliant. You just have to know where to kick, which is around the middle. Headlights. Can we talk about headlights? So wherever the oncoming vehicle is, or person or whatever, they're in a pool of dimmer light. So there's still lots of light, but they're in a pool of dimmer light than that around it. And what that means is that you're never actually on high beam or off high beam. And there's 14 cells in each side. It's just brilliant. The other thing is, and this is an option, we've got this sunroof. I'm not going to close it now, but here's some footage of me closing it and opening it. It's an option. There are almost no options on this car.
I like it as an option because I'm not a great fan. It doesn't suit me well to have a sunroof.
Well, and it's probably a couple of $1,000. I think it's $1,900, and it weighs probably 100 kilos. So
which affects the whole dynamics of the car, and also, of course, headroom. Now, I've got to say, this is still good.
Excellent headroom. Your seat is heated, and it has power adjustment with 3 memory positions, as does this one. And the 2 in the back are heated.
In the back as well.
Yep. Now, as if that wasn't enough, behind that there's another row of seats. And a space to put the luggage cover. So now let's talk about the engine. It is a bisexual engine. Bi-turbo engine. David, it's a bi-turbo.
Somewhat Freudian, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Bi-turbo engine with a small and a large turbo on the same shaft. I said shaft. And what that allows the engine to do is to spin up and start to get power and torque from lower revs.
Yes.
Because the little turbo spins faster, but because it's on the same shaft as the bigger one, it takes the bigger one with it.
176 kilowatt at 4,000 revs, but 500 newton meters at 1750 maximum.
It does build up nicely. Now, can we talk for a little bit about the interior? I think this looks absolutely smashing.
Very good technology in terms of the digital display.
Oh, now you like this active display, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Virtual display, virtual cockpit, but it's a roughly 12-inch LCD screen in front of you, and you can have a lot of stuff displayed on it. Now, I went through that pretty solidly in the last VW that I had, so look at that VW for that. This has also got a 9.2-inch screen. Now, you'll notice at the bottom of that, hold on a sec, wait for a moment, the camera in the back, can you see this? It's all of the details hide. And if you've got that on navigation, the bar goes away completely. Fairly quick to respond. So I can go in, for example, and I can make changes here. I can put the navigation on. I can have the navigation on both screens as it is here, or I can have something else on that screen, something else on this screen. Down below, we've got a little bit of piano black with 2 of the 3 climate zones for the air conditioning.
It's nicely set out, I think.
Beautifully set out.
And it's clear. These symbols and that are clear.
Yeah,
In
I
some
agree.
cases, I have to squint, just to try to say, well, what's where. I think this sets out lovely.
And importantly, we've got a sync button. There's nothing worse than someone getting in and they've had a fiddle with one of the zones, and you've got yours set on a balmy 18, but they've got it set on Sahara. That really irritates me. Now, below that, we've got the on-off controls for the start-stop, and also the automated parking. And I've found that absolutely brilliant. It's so easy to use. The car decides whether or not it's a 90 degree or parallel park, and it just does it. You've got to remember, this Skoda is almost $66,000, around $72,000 on the road, and this has far more in it for less money than its competitors. So even if the other competitors had everything that this has got in it, they're still more expensive.
And your point is, there's no long list of options.
No, 3 options. Here's the list here. You've got metallic paint, the roof, and side steps, and that's it. I like the mood lighting along the side, which of course you can change the colour of. Probably can't see that in the camera.
What's that sort of, what do you call that sort of?
This is quilted Alcantara, and that matches with the red stitching, which I think this just looks really expensive. I love this cabin. Now we've got an adjustable armrest, which you can put that up to anything you like, lift it right up to put it back down. We've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and DAB radio. Well, one thing we haven't touched on yet is the four-wheel drive.
Now this is permanent.
It's permanent four-wheel drive, but it's not always in four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So it decides when you need that four-wheel grip and when you don't, so that you're not wasting fuel powering 4 wheels when you don't need to. But this road is very greasy. Now, have you slipped at all on this road, David?
No. It's I haven't been going crazy or anything or pushing it in any way yet. It's a car that gives you confidence.
I think it is. It's a handsome beast. It's deceptively large. It looks much smaller than what it actually is.
I've always liked Skoda as having good quality, having great features, having the sort of comfort, and I go back to that word reassurance. The layout of the digital displays, particularly with navigation, is now making a quantum leap, to my mind, to making the driver much more comfortable and more confident.
And we got asked the other day why we review so many SUVs, and I keep saying, well, because you people are buying more SUVs.
Oh, yeah.
It's something like, what is it, 60% now of cars are SUVs and LCVs?
It's pushing towards 60%, but in fact in some prestige cars, Audi this year, it's 67%.
Wow.
Even in prestige things like Maserati, it was 58% were its Levante, wasn't it?
So if they hadn't made that push into SUVs when they did, they'd probably not exist as a brand.
Yeah.
Even Rolls-Royce now has an SUV.
Yeah.
And one last thing I'd like to mention before we go is the Canton speaker system for the audio is absolutely brilliant. We can't turn it on or YouTube will have a fit, but I think it is absolutely sensational. So in wrapping up, I would happily sit in this in a trip to Melbourne. I'd put my lumbar support out, my seat heating on, some Apple CarPlay tunes. I'd have the active steering would keep me centered in the lane. The active cruise control would keep me a distance from the car in front. And if I am, my attention is wandering, the active blind spot monitoring will stop me from changing lanes onto someone. That even if I don't notice the flashing light, it'll try and steer me back into the lane again. What cars like this are trying to do now with their 5-star safety rating, and this got 5 stars last year, what it's trying to do is to make sure that if your attention does wander, you're still safe. So you won't wander out of the lane, you won't, go off a cliff. So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
And if you've liked the film, please leave a comment, hit like, and just there to subscribe on the little round dot, just there.